A man happened to see a beautiful maiden bathing, an impulse that could guide him to amazing love or disaster for himself. It depends on the maiden you meet, whether she aspires to love or amuses herself and treats life as a game. Legend said that of the 7 beautiful girls in heaven, both in the East and the West. In the East, a love poem in which burning flames of desire once is better than countless others on earth. And the West is a sad song of the endless cycle in the day and night. Please follow me and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to working with you on the Ideas and Myths by Arno Will, and exploring the hidden ideas behind those legends. Today, we're exploring the goddesses who love to bathe and the love they don't. Zeus was one of the Titans, whose name means query, questioning, or intelligence. His wife was the Titanides Phoebe, which means shining. Their eldest daughter, Leto, was described by Hesiod as always mild, kind to men and to the deathless gods. Mild from the beginning, the gentlest goddess in all Olympus. Zeus seduced Leto, resulting in the pregnancy of the gentlest goddess. Hera, Zeus's wife, forbade any land to receive her in labor, so Leto had to search the world for a place to take her. While Leto was miserably searching for a place to give birth, Zeus resumed his pursuit of Leto's sister, Asteria, whose name means of the stars, starry one. To escape Zeus's rape, Asteria turned into a quail and flung herself into the sea. Zeus had to give up his quest, but by plunging into the sea, Asteria attracted the greedy sea king Poseidon. He began his erotic quest after Zeus's departure, so Asteria had to transform herself a second time into an island, Delos, which was the only floating island that did not border any land, and disconnected to the bottom of the sea. It thus became the only place that could host Leto. The goddess of childbirth and midwifery, Eileithyia or Eileithyia, was on Mount Olympus with the jealous Hera. Therefore, Leto could not give birth to her twins even after 9 days and 9 nights of labor at Delos. We know that, in the biological world, only human women give birth with a singularly high risk. The main reason is humans have evolved with an ever-increasing brain volume that contributes to difficulties in labor. The solution to this danger did not get a breakthrough until 1734, when the secret of the modern forceps, invented by British obstetrician Peter Chamberlain in 1600, was made public. Before this time, well-developed full-term babies were more likely to die, while underdeveloped premature babies were more likely to be born. Arno Will, studying praxeology, proposed a theory of suboptimal evolution. Human evolution has been accomplished primarily by suboptimal elimination of the optimal. For example, premature babies eliminate optimal full-born babies. In social practice, the first innovator usually fails and becomes a stepping stone for those who come after him, while the second best is more likely to succeed. In political ecology, the phenomenon of the best martyrs and the second best soldiers is also present. The union of Thamas, who represented the dangers of the sea, and Electra, one of the 3,000 water nymphs Oceanids, gave birth to Iris, the goddess of the rainbow, as well as a messenger of gods. Iris sends a necklace to Eileithyia and then persuades her to assist Leto. After all, gifts blind eyes. Eileithyia traveled with Iris to Delos. The goddess of childbirth allowed Leto to give birth to her children, and Leto gave birth to the twins Artemis and Apollo. Themis, meaning justice, law, custom, represented justice, divine order, law, and custom, brought ambrosia, the immortal beverage that gods drank. So, the twins did not drink milk, but grew up with the beverages of gods. Another legend is that Leto disguised herself as a she-wolf to search for the wolf country of Lycia. and thus took 12 days and 12 nights to give birth to her cubs. In any case, a god with such a difficult birth would be the best of gods on Mount Olympus. In the section Predestined Fey Girl Insulted and Castrated, we also told the story that Poseidon raped Medusa and Perseus overcome Medusa. Because Cassiopeia boasted the beauty of her daughter, Andromeda, she aroused the jealousy of Amphitrite, who asked Poseidon, her husband, to punish Andromeda. But Andromeda was also rescued by Perseus, who took her as his wife. But for the immortal gods, they had plenty of time. They could wait patiently, even if they were overcome by mortals, due to gods owning the future. Perseus had 2 sons, the first son, Mestor, and the second son, Electryon. Mestor, meaning advisor or counselor, married Lycidas. They had a daughter, Hippotho, whose name means swift as a mare. Hippotho became a new prey of Poseidon. Smart ones know how to bide one's time and wait for the right opportunity to seek vengeance. Poseidon took Hippotho captive to Aeganeid's islands, where he gave birth to his son, Taphius. Taphius founded Taphos and became the first king, becoming the ancestor of its Taphians. They were seafarers and pirates and engaged in the slave trade. The younger brother of Mestor, Electryon, means amber, shining, incandescent. He married Eurydice, whose name derived from epsilon upsilon, rho upsilon Eury's wide, and delta iota kappa eta dike justice. Eurydice has an unusual origin. When Leto gave birth to her daughter Artemis, Zeus took great pity on his beautiful illegitimate daughter, and presumably also to make up for the suffering of his lover, Leto, in childbirth, granted whatever Artemis wanted. So Artemis became the goddess of hunting, wilderness, wildlife, nature, vegetation, childbirth, childcare, and chastity. She made another final request to her father that she wanted the moon. Zeus immediately gave her the moon, and Artemis became the goddess of the moon. In Greek mythology, Selene is the personification of the moon, also known as Meme, and Artemis is the goddess of the moon. Helios was the personification of the sun, and Apollo was the god of the sun. Another of Tantalus's sons, Brodius, was a good hunter, but he refused to respect Artemis and bragged that nothing could hurt him, not even fire. So Artemis drove Brodius mad, causing him to walk into the fire and end his life. At the ancient Greek festival of the hunter's goddess, people piled a pyre to burn a human effigy, dramatizing the punishment that Brodius had received. Cyproeus was a Cretan hero. While hunting, he saw Artemis bathing. For her chastity, Artemis turned Cyproeus into a woman. It is another transgender incident in Greek mythology, the other being the rape of Ceres by the sea king Poseidon, who turned her into a man. In contrast to Cyproeus, Actaeon was not so fortunate. He was the son of Aristaeus, a priestly herdsman in Greek mythology, and Autono, a princess of Thebes. Actaeon was hunting on Mount Cithaeron when he saw Artemis bathing unintentionally. He stopped and gazed at her, marveling at her mesmerizing beauty. Artemis forbade him to speak, cursing him and turning him into a stag if he attempted to speak. At that moment, Actaeon's fellow hunters called out to him, and he could not help but answer, and immediately turned into a stag. The 50 hounds that Actaeon kept did not recognize their master, and hunted down and devoured Actaeon as a stag, tearing him to pieces. Another unlucky person was Astynome, the son of Ares from Calydon. Note that Ares from Calydon is female, not the god of war. Astynome also saw Artemis bathing and was turned into a stone by the goddess. The goddess of chastity seems to have been particularly fond of letting men see her naked. Niobe, Tantalus's daughter, also had a tragic end, and Artemis killed her daughters. We will have to recount this in more detail in later chapters. Artemis seems to have a particular fondness for letting men see her naked. Thus, she could fall into bathing as a punishment for love, perhaps a form of self-stimulation for chastity. Compared to her cruelty for love, the bathing of the daughter of the Emperor of Heaven in the Han Chinese mythologies has a much warmer ending. Legend has it that the Emperor of Heaven had 7 daughters, who often fled to bathe in the rivers of the mortal world. A cowherd boy, later known as the Nulang, meaning cowherd man, happened to see 7 birds flying to the river and shedding their feathers to become beautiful women bathing in the water. He secretly hid the feathered clothes of the youngest woman. When the 7 women realized a man was spying on them, they dressed and flew away. Only the youngest of the 7 fairies could not find her clothes and had to stay in the river. Nulang begged the maiden to marry him. The maiden had no choice but to agree, so Nulang put his own clothes on the woman and took her home. After marriage, the man plows the woman weaving. Villagers called the woman Jinu, meaning weaving girl. They have a few children later. They love each other and have a happy life. After a long while, Jinu misses her parents, so she secretly asks Nulang's mother and learns that her feathered clothes are under the rice in the barn. So she puts on her clothes and flies back to heaven. Returning to heaven, Jinu, chastised by her father, the Emperor of Heaven, who forbade her to return to earth. But she often missed her husband and children. So the Emperor of Heaven stipulated that every year, on the night of July 7, let magpies build a bridge in the Milky Way. Carrying his children on a stretcher, Nulang meets Jinu at the center of the bridge. At this time, people can look up from the mortal world and see the stars Altair and Vega. Han Chinese people call this day the Qixi Festival, also called the Festival to Plead for Skills. The festival was introduced to Japan by the Empress Koken in 755 and called Tanabata, meaning Evening of the Seventh, also known as the Star Festival. Gan Bao, courtesy name Lingsheng, was a historian and literary scholar during the Eastern Jin dynasty. He wrote the 30-volume In Search of the Supernatural. Only 20 volumes survive, and became the founder of the novel about tales of the miraculous. He lived at a time of great Christian debate about the identity of the Father and the Son. Eventually, the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, in the year 325, called a meeting of more than 300 Christian bishops from all over the country in the city of Nicaea in Asia Minor, in present-day Iznik, Turkey. That produced the statement of Christian belief known as the Nicene Creed, also called the Creed of Constantinople.
A man from Xinyu County, Yuzhang, saw 6 or 7 women in a field, all dressed in feathered garments, not knowing if they were birds. He crept to one of the women, took the sweater, hid it, and went to the birds. All the birds flew away, but one bird could not fly without feathered garments. The man took her as his wife. He gave birth to 3 daughters. The woman later asked her mother-in-law where her clothes were, and her mother-in-law asked her father-in-law. Then she learned that the clothes were under a pile of rice, and the woman got them, put them on, and flew away. After some days, the woman flew back to take her 3 daughters.
The legend of Nulang and Jinu was first recorded in the classic of poetry in the early Western Zhou dynasty, which is supposed to be a very early Chinese mythological story. There were many evolutions in the course of transmission, combined with the legends of Dongyang. The Han Chinese Emperor of Heaven is the supreme leader of gods, similar to Zeus's position, but it seems that Chinese gods rarely intervene on earth. His own daughter was hijacked by a mortal, and he did not come out to interfere. Although angry when his daughter returned home, he acquiesced in the marriage. Finally, he let the young couple reunite for one night on the eve of every year. Compared to the gods of ancient Greece, the Han Chinese gods are simply like the neighboring grandfather, at most, leaning on the old to make some temper, as if there is nothing for mortals to be afraid of. I wonder if this results from the separation of earth and heaven by the Zhuangzi Emperor, a story we've told. Love is the eternal theme of humans. As we have already said, in Greek mythology, Anteros was the god who punished those who scorned love and rejected the advances of others. But his presence seems to be if nothing else, and he seemed even more powerless against Artemis, the goddess who rejected love. Beauty and cruelty can arouse greater sexual desire. Being destroyed by beauty or destroying beauty can bring the ultimate pleasure. The more cruel, the more beautiful, the more beautiful, the more cruel. Once, Zeus, Hermes, and Poseidon visited Hyrieus of Tanagra. Hyrieus was the illegitimate son of Poseidon and Alcyone. He roasted a whole bull for the three gods. In gratitude for his hospitality, the gods granted him a wish. Hyrieus was childless and asked the gods to grant him a son. The gods filled a sacrificial bull's hide with their urine, then told Hyrieus to bury it and told him to dig it up in 10 months. When the time came, Hyrieus dug up the hide and got a son, Orion. So Orion was also conceived by Gaia of the earth. Orion was a famous hunter who claimed to be able to hunt any existing animal. He fell in love with Merope on the island of Koeus, for which he killed the beasts of Koeus and plundered the inhabitants to prepare a bride price for Merope. Merope's father, King Enopion, does not want to marry his daughter to him. A frustrated Enopion gets drunk, breaks into Merope's bedroom, and rapes her. An enraged Enopion stabs the drunken Orion in the eye. Orion stumbled and went to the island of Lemnos. Hephaestus built a forge on the island. Hephaestus told his servant Sidalion to guide Orion to the eastern point of the island, where the sun Helios would restore him to the light. Orion returned to Koeus to take revenge on King Enopion. Enopion had to hide underground to escape. Orion fits the image of a man-god in all women's minds. He is strong, potent, and handsome. Meeting Leto and Artemis at Crete, they hunted together. Artemis fell in love with him. After some hesitation, Artemis confided in her fellow brother Apollo that she was determined to renege on her promise to marry Orion and would no longer hold fast to her vow of chastity. Apollo probably had a problem with this, but did not openly oppose it. The goddess and personification of the dawn, Eos, also fell in love with Orion. She and Helios, Selene, were sisters. They were both descendants of the Titan Hyperion and Thea. Hyperion was responsible for supporting the eastern sky. As a result, his children, sun, moon, and dawn always rose from the east. Note that Helios is the personification of the sun, and Apollo is the god who reigns over the sun. Selene is the personification of the moon, and Artemis is the goddess who governs the moon. Eos brought Orion to the island of Delos. While Orion was swimming, Apollo, who secretly wanted to keep his sister's virginity, pointed to a dark spot in the distant sea and said to his sister,
"Sister, you boast that you are a godly archer, so can you shoot that distant wreath?"
Without any hesitation, Artemis bent her bow and shot, and an arrow pierced Orion's heart. The waves carried Orion's body to the shore, and Artemis realized she had made a great mistake. She clung to the cold body of her lover and cursed never to see her brother Apollo again. Then Orion was elevated to the sky and became the constellation Orion. From then on, Artemis decreed that the moon could not rise simultaneously with the sun and would never again frolic together in the sky. In another legend, Orion chased the 7 sisters of the Pleiades for 7 years, until Zeus elevated them all into the sky to become the constellation Pleiades. Atla and Pleione had 7 daughters called Pleiades, meaning daughters of Pleione. Pleione was also an Oceanid, one of the 3,000 water nymphs. Similar to the 7 daughters of the Emperor of Heaven in the Han Chinese mythologies, Only the youngest daughter of Pleiades married a mortal, and the other Pleiades were all seduced by the Olympian gods and became supporting characters in the gods' poetic and passionate. Maia and Zeus gave birth to Hermes. Electra, meaning amber, was seduced by Zeus and gave birth to Dardanus and Iasion by Zeus. Tegete and Zeus gave birth to Lacedaemon. Alcyone and Poseidon gave birth to Hyrieus, Hyperenor, and Ethusa. Another version was the mother of Hypers and Anthas, or Epopeus. Chelino, meaning the Dark One, and Poseidon gave birth to Lycus and Nycteus, or of Eurypylus and Euphemus, also by Poseidon. Stera, meaning lightning, also Asterope, and Ares give birth to Oenomaus, or the wife of Oenomaus instead. Merope, the youngest of the 7 Pleiades, is not the same one Merope from Chios, who was raped by Orion. Merope, daughter of Pleione, married Sisyphus, king of Corinth, and had a son, Glaucus, meaning grayish-blue or bluish-green and glimmering. She was the only one of Pleiades to marry a mortal, so she lost her ability to be immortal. The 7 sisters later became the constellation Pleiades in the sky. Pleiades V, which Merope incarnated, is the dimmest star and hard to recognize. In contrast to her sister, seduced by the gods, she was ashamed of her marriage and thus hid her face from the world. Please follow me, and if you think it's good, share me and subscribe to my channel too. I look forward to working with you to follow in the footsteps of human idea formation and discover patterns of human behavior in ideas and myths by Arno Will. In the next installment, we will begin the story of the enmity between humans and blood. Qin Guan, courtesy name Taixu, changed to Xiaoyu and known as Honggu Jushi and Mr. Weihai, was a native of Gaoyu, Yangzhou, present-day Gaoyu, Jiangsu Province, China, and a literati of the Northern Song Dynasty. He was honored as one of the 4 scholars of Sumen, along with Wang Tingjian, Zhang Lei, and Chao Buji. He lived at a time when the Norman conquest took place. His lyrics are the best ode to the story of Nulang and Xinu, and fit in well with the mortals and gods who love but cannot be loved.
Clouds are constantly changing, as flowers blooming. Meteors cross the sky, carrying a message of love, quietly flying over thousands of miles. The winds blow in autumn, and the dew quietly creeps at night. The flame of love kindled, even once, is better than the mediocre couples, together every day. Their love flows tenderly like a stream, entwined with each other happily, as if in a dream. Too short a time, how to look back at the bridge that magpies connected, endless love burning in their heart. Why complain? Can't be together day and night?